Well, hello, Internet, and welcome to my Wednesday 1 p.m. live stream. We do this every single week. And today, what I want to focus on is applying data science to analyzing stock trading strategies and how to use back testing to see if they will actually work. Because some of them do, some of them don't, some of them do sometimes, some of them do never. And so, what I'm going to be focusing on today is the Ichimoku trading strategy, which I particularly really like. And if this is the first time you're joining me, this has been a multi-part tutorial. We started back here just importing all the different data science libraries we need, and then we moved on to downloading stock data from pretty much any place in the world, testing that stock data, testing a couple different theories along the way, then creating some plots, talking about how you can't really analyze stocks based off of price, but instead we have to analyze them based off of returns and cumulative returns. And I showed you how to calculate all those, how to then merge all this data into one stock or one data frame, as we call them. Data frame is something that's specific to a data science library called Pandas, and it's just basically, if you've never heard of it, it allows you to take a whole bunch of data. It kind of looks like a spreadsheet, and well, I'll just show you. Here's one. This is a data frame. See, it just has Facebook's cumulative returns and Amazon's, Apple's, and all that, and it has date, and date works as an index, which means on this date we have this data. And we were able to go and analyze cumulative returns on the FANG stocks. We went and created volume charts, and I showed you how to plot all those. We took a look at Bollinger Bands, which I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about to our next week. I don't really particularly like Bollinger Bands, kind of because it forces you to jump into the market, jump out of the market over and over and over again. Doesn't really make any sense. It does work sometimes, I guess. I showed you how to download all kinds of stocks, how to create all kinds of different moving averages, how to plot all this information, how to what exactly a support moving average is, and a second support average. We plotted all those out, as you can see right here. All of this stuff, by the way, is all available free to download on GitHub. Let me give you the link. So, every single time I'm like, why don't I have this up here? You can download all of this stuff on GitHub for free, 100% for free. I don't charge for absolutely anything, and I don't sell absolutely anything. That is the link, and specifically, this file is not currently on there because I haven't created it yet. It's going to be called Technical Analysis 8. So let's just call this Technical Analysis 8, and it is going to be an IPYNB file. And I specifically, so that's what it's called, and that is the extension. All right, let me get rid of this. Okay, so that is where you can get everything. And what else did we do? We did some other different plotting. We talked about candlesticks. We talked about different moving averages and how they can be used. We then analyzed Ethereum stocks because people that were in the chat said, hey, I want to know more about cryptocurrencies. So we went and analyzed all those. Calculated some returns for the entire Wilshire 5000. I talked about the importance of stock sectors. We were able to then go and get cumulative returns for multiple different stock sectors. I talked about the Ichimoku technical analysis tool, which I consider to be quite amazing in regards to making predictions. By the way, this is an educational video. I am not going to recommend any specific stocks. And basically what I tell people is I'm giving you mountains of information. Now, if you think you can look at this or you can download a file off of GitHub and start trading based off of not having any idea what is going on, don't do that. This is not the world for you. This is for mainly somebody that is going to, at the very least, watch all these videos, work through the examples, and understand everything. This isn't a download this file and you'll get rich. No. If I did that, I would sell it. I'm not selling anything. This is just education, okay? Just want to make that completely clear. Now, this is how we create the Ichimoku. I'm going to cover that again because in the last video I got a lot of questions about the Ichimoku and people weren't quite understanding it. I'll get into that. You can see here what I did was I went and charted out cumulative returns for the top 10, I believe. Yeah, 10. That's what this is right here. The top 10 industrial stocks. And then what we did was we went through those different industrial stocks and used the Ichimoku indicator to then predict if it was a good investment or not. Now, the Ichimoku is wonderful. It provides all of these different moving averages, candlestick plots. You can see here we're using a tool called Plotly. We're going to be able to zoom in and zoom out of these different securities. And what this basically is a chart of, what is it? Old Dominion Freight, which is an industrial company. As you can see right here, I went through all these different stocks and we looked at which will look the best. And what we want, Ichimoku is wonderful. Provides all sorts of information in regards to moving averages, but at the same time what it does is it has what we call the cloud. Now, whenever the cloud is green, that means it is a good time, based off the Ichimoku indicator, to invest. Whenever it is starting to not be so wide, it's sort of constricting, as you can see right here where I'm moving around here. Let me move in a little bit closer so you can see this. All right, see how it is constricting right here and getting tight? That is a sign that the stock is, you should get out of it. However, as the Ichimoku widens, as you can see, we're seeing here with Old Dominion Freight, that is a sign that it is a positive indicator and it is going to continue to increase in value. See, with the Bollinger Bands, you're basically bouncing in and out of a security multiple times per day. With the Ichimoku, very often what makes it great is you get into a security and you stay there, okay? So you don't have to sit at your computer all day trying to make trades. You just get in and you let it sit there and ride. And as long as the cloud is expanding, getting wider, that is a sign that you want to stay there. All right, that's why I like Ichimoku. And as what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to test the Ichimoku. I'm going to see when it is successful for trading and when not so much. I will cut to the long story short. If you analyze a portfolio that is well diversified, the Ichimoku will not give you that much of a leg up trading wise. However, if you use the Ichimoku for individual securities, it is going to be extremely valuable. And I will show you that in this video. So what we did over the last couple videos is just analyze multiple different stock sectors, and we went and created multiple different Ichimoku charts to analyze whether they were a good buy or not. And you can see that I basically covered every single major stock sector. All right, and that brings us to where we are now. You can see here is the Ichimoku, and basically what we have here is our lagging indicator, and it's thicker than all the rest of them, and it is purple. Okay, I am riding on the lagging indicator. What is the lagging indicator? And I want to review this because I had a lot of questions about it. Because Ichimoku is extremely easy to read. If you just say, okay, here's the cloud, buy, it's green, sell, it's red. Okay, and this is over a year-long period. Okay, so you want to use the Ichimoku to basically analyze over the short term as well as the long term. All right, lagging indicator, what's it say? Well, whenever above the price, it's bullish, and whenever it's below, it is bearish. So you can see here, it is above, and this is going to be a negative indicator, and as you can see, it turns green here later on as the prices go over top of the lagging indicator, okay? And I'll get more into calculating it in a minute. Then we have our baseline, which is pink. That's this line right here, and I tried to make all of these different stylings on all of these different lines pretty easy to spot, but I'm colorblind, so they might not work for you, but I will cover how to change them to whatever works for you. I can look at this and I see everything. I don't know about you, but everything, every single line, I can just easily spot. Might not be the same for you, so you can change that. So with the baseline, which is pink, when below the price, meaning when the baseline's below the price, this is considered support, and whenever it's above the price, it's considered resistance. We have our conversion line, which is black. That is this guy right here. See, there, this is, so you can see it lights up as black. And that's our conversion line. and we focus on its position versus the baseline, and whenever the conversion crosses above the baseline, we're in an upward trend, and vice versa. And I already talked about the cloud a whole bunch of times. The cloud, just to review, is the green and red parts. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that. Now, mainly what we do with these indicators is the lagging span is going to focus on past performance. The present is going to be covered through the baseline and the conversion line. These are, the Ichimoku was developed by someone in Japan. That is why everything has Japanese names. But I'll be referring to them using the English phrases, which is lagging, baseline, conversion line, cloud. And the cloud is made up of two lines, which is the span A and span B. Okay? And the cloud focuses on the future. All right, so that brings us to where we are. And feel free to ask me questions at any time. This is a live stream. I am really here, and I don't know why waving my hand proved that, but whatever. And just for the people that want to know, tomorrow I will be programming this robot, okay? So, same time, 1 o'clock, Thursday. My channel is considerably different than probably anything you will ever see because I like to do different things. And I'm going to type this in, and if you can't see this at the current typeface, tell me, and I will increase the typeface. All right, we will go, and we're going to use something called Yahoo Finance to download some stock data. And all you do to do that is you just type in tickers like this, and then you go, if I wanted to get the S&P, you type in any stock ticker. I'm going to type in GSPC because that is the ticker for the S&P 500. Now you're going to type in other additional data. I am mainly going to be working on long-term trends, but later on I'm going to get into shorter-term trends so we can use the Ichimoku and analyze it in multiple different ways to see, you know, if it's accurate or not. I sort of spilled the beans at the beginning of the video, but you will find out. All right, then we're going to say that we want stock data every 1 day. All right, so what is this saying? It is saying I want 10 years of data, and I want you to give me the price on the S&P 500 every 1 day. So it's going to give us the price every single day over a 10-year period. And we're going to analyze it and figure out if it's useful. We can just go data frame like this, and boom, we have all of our data. We have the opening, the high, the low, the close, adjusted close, and the volume, as well as all of the dates right here. Very simple to work with. And if you know anything about candlestick plots, you know that we need the open, the high, the low, the close to be able to plot a candlestick plot. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to add my Ichimoku data to this data frame. That's what it is. It's just like a spreadsheet. That's all it is, data frame. All right, so how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to create a function that does it, because if I create a function, I'll be able to use it multiple different times. So I'm going to go and break the conventions of Python a little bit by using some uppercase letters in here just to do it. All right, so we'll go data frame, and what do we need to pass to this function to get it to work? Well, we need a ticker. We are going to need the period for our security. Again, just so, well, I will not cover this again. I just want to cover it one time. When I refer to period, that means how many years worth of data I want, or months, or days. In this situation, I want 10. And the interval is going to be how often I want to get a new price. So I'm going to have the stock period, and I'm going to be passed an interval as well. So there we go, and there we go. All right, so what else are we going to do? And this is going to be all of the calculations we need to take and put into the data frame. So first off, I am going to get the conversion line, and you can see it right there. Well, I am going to first have to get a high value, and I'll go and use my data frame here, and I want high. So that's going to be the daily high, and that's it. Okay, and this is a moving average, and this is a moving average that is going, it just averages the high price over a certain period of time. Well, we're going to be working with periods of every 9 periods, we want an average. And the only reason we use moving averages is we want to smooth out our data. We don't want a short-term blip to dramatically affect our data. We want to be able to look at it and not get confused. I'm going to take 9 periods and get a moving average for those. And to calculate this, as you can see, we need to get the highest value in a period, the lowest value in a period, and then divide them by 2 over 9 sessions. 9 sessions in this case just means 9 days. I have to get a drink. I left my computer running, my data science computer, and everything's crazy. Oh, look. Is this me? Yeah, look at that. I'm invisible. All right. So what are we going to do? Well, I need to get my low value. I'm just copying this formula right here, and I am recreating it down here. So I'm going to go and also get a moving average. However, this is going to be a low value. And, of course, I need this from low, like that. And I'm going to do this over the same period of time, but as the formula says, I need the minimum. Then, after that, I'm going to store this new calculation in a column in my data frame, and it's going to be called conversion, like that. And how do I do it? Well, it says up here, take the high value plus the low value divided by 2. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my high value, like this, and I am going to add it to my low value, like this, and then I'm going to divide by 2. All right, there we are. So that's how easy it is to calculate the conversion line, and this just stores all of these calculations inside this data frame. And it's very cool because what it's going to do is automatically, the way that Pandas works is you don't have to say loop through this. It's just going to automatically go and get each of the lines of data and make a calculation for each of those lines of data. So it's very cool. All right, next up we need to calculate our base value. Highest value in period, lowest value in period, divided by 2, except 26 sessions. What does that mean to me? That means we're basically going to do exactly the same thing. So let's just paste this in here, and let's call this high value 2. Let's call this high value 2. And I'm using Visual Studio Code, but I have Jupyter Notebooks basically running the server, and that's how everything works. If you want me to point you towards an installation video on how I set all this up, just tell me and I will do it. All right, so what's it say? It says over 26 periods, and 26, and basically the same calculation. However, this is the baseline, so we are going to call it the baseline. So there is the baseline. And this has to be high value 2, and this has to be low value 2, and divided by 2. All right, so we got the conversion line and the baseline all created here. What do we need to do next? Well, we need to get the span. So we don't need to do anything terribly fancy. I'm just going to call this span A, like that, and equal to, and what's it say? It says conversion value plus the base value divided by 2 over 26 sessions. All right, no problem. So we're just going to come in and throw some parentheses inside of here, and I'll say data frame and conversion and plus and df and baseline. Whoops, spell baseline correctly, and also put it in quotes, otherwise it will give us an error. Don't like errors. All right, boom. All right, so we got both of those, and then we are going to divide by 2, and then we are also going to shift this data over 26 sessions, just like it says up there in the formula. There we go, and there we are. Now we have our span A all created, and we have to create span B. Well, the only problem with that is it's over 52 sessions, so we are going to have to make a different calculations for this. So I'm going to create another, well actually, let's copy this. So I'm going to just go up here and copy this guy right here. Copy, and bounce down here and paste it in. This is going to be high value 3 and low value 3. And we're going to be getting our high and rolling average, except this is going to be over 52 periods. So over 52 days, we are going to be getting our average for our high and the average for our low. All this stays exactly the same. Now what we can do after we have that is we can say df and span B like that. Whoops, 1, 2, 4 is equal to, and again we're going to now say high value 3 and plus our low value 3, and we will divide this by 2, and then it says over 50, or yeah, this is still going to be 26 sessions though because I did 52 up there. So let's just go shift like this, and this is going to be negative 26, and this is going to create the span. If we look at the Ichimoku, This is the top span, this is span A, and this is span B. And that's what creates our cloud. And here we are. Come back down inside of here, and there we go. All right. So now what are we going to do? Actually, this is not negative. It's positive. Whoops, sorry about that. All right, fixed it. Okay, so last thing we have to do is our lagging span. And all it is we're going to shift all of our data backwards 26 periods. So this is going to be basically showing us the past. And if we look at lagging, remember it is purple. So it is going to lag behind current prices. And as you can see, it does. See? This is the slope we have on our candlestick chart, and it's the same slope we have here for our lagging span. So let's go back down inside of here, and we'll say df and lagging, and that is going to be equal to, and we just take our closing price, and just shift it back, shift 26 periods. So there's that. And then after we do all that, we are going to return this data frame. And I didn't get an error, so that is wonderful. All right, so now what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to go GSPC. This is going to be working with the S&P 500. And all I need to do is go add, where is it? Ichimoku, there it is, Ichimoku. And like it says up here, we just need to pass the ticker and the periods and the intervals. So we know that the ticker is GSPC like this, and we know that we have 10 years worth of data is what we want, and we want 1 day. So we want every single price, and GSPC and data frame like this, and run it. And you can see that we now have our conversion, our baseline, both our spans, and our lagging data all of here. And the reason why this is NaN is because these are moving averages, so it takes a certain number of periods for them to be able to make a calculation. So that's why these are NaN. And the lagging ends with NaN. It just means not a value. There's no value there. The reason why it doesn't have them is it's lagging 26 periods into the past. Okay, so that's why that is set up like that. All right, so now what I want to do is I went and created all these calculations, and now I want to chart all of this out. So how am I going to do it? Let's go. Well, one thing you're going to need is, I did this previously. You're going to also, sorry, I have to scroll way up here to the top to find a function. There is a function that you are going to be required to have, and I will find it here in a second. And all the function's going to do, it's called getFillColor. What it's going to do is it is going to fill in the space between span A and span B, which create our cloud. And if it has a value of 1, it is going to return a color of green with an opacity of 0.4. If it doesn't have a value greater than or equal to 1, it's going to return red. So this function, that is all it does, is it either returns red or green depending upon whether the span A is above or below span B. So I'm trying to grab my little scroller over here to come back down. All right. Let's go back down here. There we are, plot Ichimoku. So we need that fill thing that's just going to return red or green depending upon if something is, if span A is above span B, and if it isn't, it's going to return red because span A is below span B. All right. So what are we going to do when we plot Ichimoku? Well, sorry, I have to drink every once in a while because otherwise I'll blow my voice out. So I need to calculate the candlestick, and like I said previously, this is going to be, you need to pass in the index candlestick chart. I've talked about it so many times. If you want me to, I'll talk about it more. So I'm just going to go and calculate. Whoops, you know what? I'm going to put this inside of a function so we can use this multiple different times because it doesn't really make sense to not do that. So what do I want to call this? I'm going to call this plot and Ichimoku. And there we go. And what's it going to get passed? It's going to be passed a data frame, and it's going to plot all that information out. Now, the data frame has the opening price and the closing price. These are all the things we need for the Ichimoku, or for the candlestick plot. Okay, so we have our open, and we have, let me show you the candlestick plot real fast here, just for anybody that doesn't know how they work. All right. So let's zoom way in here, and let's zoom back here. Whoops. All right. I think this is a little bit easier to see. Now, let's look at this guy right here. What does this tell us? Well, it tells us quite simply that since it's green, the stock came up positive for the day. All right. Red means it didn't. All right. What else does it tell me? Well, it has an opening price and a closing price. That is represented by this square right here. Now, since it's green, that means the opening price is the bottom of that little cube there, and the closing price is this right here. So what's up with these lines? Well, this line up here, as you can see up at the top, that is showing the high for the day, and the line down here is showing the low for the day. So with this one little box here and these two little lines, these are called wicks or shadows, the lines that go up. You can see every single thing that happened with that stock all at one time. All right? But to be able to calculate it, you need to know the opening price, the closing price, the high, and the low. All right? Otherwise, you cannot calculate it. And that is what a candlestick plot is. So to be able to properly create it, what we have to do is just give it the index, which is going to be our date, and our opening price, our closing price, our low, and our high. So I'm going to say high is equal to, and I get the value from my data frame, and there it is. And well, let's also do the low. The low is equal to data frame, and guess what? The column name is low. And there we are. We're also going to have to get our closing price, data frame, and close, like that. And what else do we need to pass in? Well, we don't really need to pass this in, but I like to say what exactly it is. So I'm going to say candlestick, and that's the name of it. And it'll show up in the little legend on the right side of the plot, and that's awesome. Okay, so something I need to do is I need to color the Ichimoku properly, so green or red. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my data frame. I am going to make a copy of it, and then I'm going to keep the red and green data in one of the data frames, and the other one is going to stay with just simply the line plots. So to do that, I'm going to say data frame 1 is equal to, I'm going to put this like this, data frame 1 df dot and copy. And that just copies the data frame, just a copy of it. Well, if I want to plot this, I have to create a figure object, and you just go like this and figure. And the figure is what we will plot all of our lines on. Now, the label is going to have, is going to define if we use red or green or not. So I am going to say label, this is for our cloud, and I'm going to say np.where. So in the circumstances in which data frame span A, so if the span A line is greater than, meaning it's above the span B line, and span B, in the situation in which the A is above the B, well, in that situation, I want to store the value of 1 inside of label inside of our data frame. In the situation in which it isn't, I want 0 in there. Okay, pretty simple stuff. Now I'm going to group all of this data together, and this is going to pertain to how wide the cloud is, and we will be using this to make stock predictions. Because sometimes span A is different distance between span B. And like we said at the beginning of the video, what we want is a stock that if we have span A and B, we want them to be separating from each other, because that's a sign of momentum and growth. And if it's green and the span A and span B are getting wider apart, that is a unbelievable sign that this stock is going to continue to increase in value. As they converge, that is a sign that we're running out of steam. So not sure. I lost my stream there for a second, and I think I am back. All right. So, let's say, just want to test to see if anybody is actually able to hear me, because it's kind of pointless for me to do this if nobody can hear me. Not sure. Just say yes, and I will continue. Yes, thank you for doing that. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, yes, thank you everybody for telling me, because I don't know what happened. Everything just went haywire for a second. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Well, I need to go and store this information about the difference between the span A and span B. How I can do that is I'm going to go and get my label, and I'm going to say not equal to, and data frame and label, and I'm going to use shift to look at the difference in change between red and green and how far they're spread apart. And how we can do that is I can do a cumulative sum over that period. And the shift is just looking previous to the last piece of data. All right? So that is going to be group. And you'll see what group looks like here in a minute. So I'm going to say that I want to group by group. Whoops. Group. Like that. Okay? And this is just going to allow us to be able to tell apart whether it's red and green and the cumulative sum of those said values. All right, so now I'm going to create a list, and I'm going to call it DFS, and I'm going to cycle through all of this. I'll say name, data in data frame, and I am going to append these pieces of data to this list. So append and data. All right, so I'm just cycling through this data frame that we have right here, and I'm appending all of that data to a list that we're then going to be able to work with. Okay, good stuff. So then what I can do, oops, go back, and I'm going to say for data frame in DFS, so inside of said list, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my span A and my span B lines. So I'll just say if I want to add this line to my figure to plot it out on the screen, how you do that is you say add trace, and I want to create a line. And this is somewhat weird, but you actually, I don't know if you guys know what a scatter plot is. It's just like points all over the place. Well, if you want to draw a line, you're going to use a scatter plot also. And the name of this tool is Plotly. That's what I'm using because I prefer it because it has tools that I really like. Seaborn is also great, and there's all kinds of other different libraries, but Plotly is the one that I prefer, mainly just because I know it inside and out, and I don't have to think to use it. All right, and who needs to think if you don't need to? All right, so I'm just going to get whatever the value for span A is, and you can refer to the different columns in your data frame either this way, or you can refer to them this way. All right? But in this situation, it's the same thing, but I'm just going to refer to it this way because, you know, why not? Okay, so after I get that, I then am going to define what my line is going to look like. So you create a dictionary, which is just a whole bunch of different key value pairs, and I'm going to say that I want the color for my span A line to be equal to RGB. RGBA, and I am going to make it black. So I'll say boom, zoom, and boom, and boom. Okay, so there is that, and then don't forget to close that off. And I think that's all I need to do. Okay, so that is going to create span A, and you can see, well, I showed you Ichimoku numerous times. Okay, so let's then I'm going to create the other additional span, and this one is going to actually color in red or green inside of our cloud. So again, we're going to say add trace, just like we did previously, or add traces, add traces, and add traces. So add traces, and there we are. Okay, so we're adding our traces, and again, we're going to do basically the same exact thing. Do I want to copy this? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Let's just copy part of it. So I'm going to copy this and paste that inside of there. And of course, we're going to be using span B this time. Did I just get the B? Yes, I did. And the line is going to be equal to basically the same. So let's just copy all of that as well. Let's see if I'm getting myself in danger here by copying and pasting. That's normally whenever I get an error. This line's going to be the same. And what this is doing is just plotting the red and the green between span A and span B. Later, we're going to actually create span A and span B in a separate way. Okay? And that's also the reason why this is not going to be showing inside of here. All right? So that's why the opacity is 0 and such. So these lines are actually not going to be showing. They're just going to be created so that we can create the red and green for our Ichimoku cloud. All right? Just to make 100% certain, what we are doing is we are coloring this. We're either going to make it green or we're going to make it red. That is what we're actually plotting right this moment. But you have to create the lines to be able to fill the lines. Make sense? I don't know. I think it does. Okay. So let's go and comma. And this is specifically how you fill space between two lines. You go to next Y, like that. And then you are going to define your fill color between those lines, and you do fill color is equal to, and remember that function I told you that we created earlier? It's called get fill color. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. Let's get rid of that. It's called get fill color, and what we just simply do is we say we pass into it the value that is in label, and it's either going to be 0 or 1, and that is how it's going to go inside of there. Need to get another drink. All right. Get fill color, and we're going to pass in label, and we're specifically just going to get the first value inside of it, and how that is going to work is you're going to say iLock like that, and 0. And it's either going to return a 1 or a 0. Okay, there you are. We just created the fill color between our two lines. And a lot of the work is done now. What we need to do now is just simply go and fill in all of the rest of our lines. So we're going to go scatter like that. X is equal to, and df1. Remember, we made a copy up here, so that's going to have all of our original data inside of it. So we'll say df1 and index, and we have to go and get the baseline data, and that is going to be df1, and we have the column name for that is baseline. So we'll go and grab that, and then we just have to define what color we want it to be. Again, dictionary, and we're going to say that we want it to be equal to pink. See, you can use RGB colors, or there are set values that you can also use. In this situation, I want it to be pink because I think pink stands out on the screen. We are also going to define a size. Since it's pink, I'm going to make the line width 2, and mostly everything else is going to be 1s. So it's going to stand out a little bit more because that just seemed to work for me. And I think that's all I'm going to do for that. And then I'm going to give it a name, and that name is going to show up in the legend, and it is going to be baseline. Okay? So there we are. We just created our baseline. And is there anything else that we want? Well, I'd also like to create a conversion line because the Ichimoku has everything known to man. And the name of this line, I believe, is conversion. And I'm pulling these column names from this. See, conversion, baseline, span A, span B, and lagging. We made all those calculations just a minute ago. So let's go and put conversion inside of here. And then what color do we want this to be? I want it to be black. I want it to stand out. And it's going to be black. And do I want it to be? I'm going to make it 1 though, because I think pink is harder to see. And I want that to remain just a little bit less width. All right. What other lines do we need? Well, we're going to need our lagging and our span A and our span B lines. So let's just do the lagging first. Lagging like that. And the lagging is going to, of course, be lagging. So lagging like that. This index is the date again, and the lagging line we made purple. So let's make this purple. And the lagging line, I want a lot of emphasis on it because it's kind of important. I'm going to put a 2 inside of there, and I'm going to call this lagging. All right, so this is just a function that's going to automatically generate Ichimoku moving averages and lines and clouds and everything. Amazing. And then you're just going to be able to say, you're just going to be able to literally just say, plot Ichimoku, and it just throw the stock inside. Well, Dataframe, you're going to have to first make the calculation. You're going to be able to just run this function, add Ichimoku, and you're going to run this function, plot Ichimoku, 2 lines, and it's going to create these ridiculously awesome, valuable charts. Well, it's here. You'll see it. Okay. There's no point in rolling around here over and over again. Okay, so we have span A, and it's basically going to be exactly the same. So let's just paste this in here, and let's call this span A. So span A, and we called it span A in our data frame, and we're going to give it a name of span A, and then we just have to define exactly what we want to look. This is green, so span A will be green, and I'm going to have the width on it be equal to 2. And if you want a dashed line, which sometimes helps you, better understand your data, well, you just put dot in there for dash, and you have it. And everything else there, exactly the same. So I have to create span B. There we are. And boom, and span B. So here's span B. Go scatter, and the column name is B. And the color I had for that is red, because we want span A above span B, so that's the reason why this is green and red. Say it's like stop and go. I don't know, just what I did. And we will make this 1, and we're going to also have this be dashed, and we will give the name that will show up in the legend, the name of span B. And what else do I need to do? Not much. I just need to go figure and add trace and go and throw all those guys in there. So what are we going to be adding? Well, I'm going to add my candlestick chart, and let's just go and copy this multiple times and paste it multiple times. So we need to also print out our base line, and what else? I need the lagging line. Well, let's do this in order so it's not confusing. Conversion. And in the chat earlier, I posted where you can download all this stuff for free. It's on GitHub. So if you want to, but it's not there now because, I'm making it right now. So as soon as the video is over, I'll add a whole bunch of comments to this, and then maybe an hour or so after this video ends, you'll be able to download it. And I have the name of the file and everything written there already. So span A, and also span B. And there we are. And we're very close to being able to plot all this stuff. And if I want to change my figure, I can just simply, figure means what I'm going to be drawing all these plots on. I just say update and layout, and I'm going to say that I want it to have a height of 1200 and a width which is going to be equal to 1800. And do I want to show the legend? Yes, this is an extremely complicated chart, and a legend will be very useful. I just say, whoops, true after that. And do I need to do anything else? Yes, I just need to say figure show, and we are ready to go. Whoops, figure show. There it is. Run it. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any errors. So let's try to plot our S&P 500 data and see what happens with it. And then after we do that, we are going to test to see if the Ichimoku actually works. It's GSPC data frame. Let's see if I did all that right. Oh, there's an error somewhere. I have to figure this out. Key error, low. It's probably supposed to be capitalized. Yep. Okay, so let's go up here and get a drink. Yes. See, I just typed in that. And if you ever see me make an error, feel free to tell me. Is it working? Boom! Look at that. How awesome is that? You have the Ichimoku plotted out, 10 years of data for the S&P 500, and you can interact with it normally. This is a lot of data. This is 10 years worth of data that we are zooming in on and zooming out of. And I don't know about you, but when I look at this, let's bring it up here. Okay, so you have to understand, this is a normal slope for a stock market. It's actually not normal. Historically, this is a very steep slope, and now it looks like this. That's kind of scary. If you've been in the stock market, any dramatic change in slope, of course, this is a nightmare, but this is also kind of potentially a nightmare. It's definitely a situation you have to pay attention to. But in this situation, what you can see here is there is the Ichimoku and all of those different lines that you can, of course, zoom in on and zoom out of. And what I need to do now is actually test the Ichimoku. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some calculations on when to buy based off of what the Ichimoku is saying and when to sell it. All right, and because the Ichimoku is such a ridiculously complex information wealth just right here, there's numerous different ways of analyzing it. And I'm going to analyze it in a bunch of different ways. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to test using historical data to see when the Ichimoku is actually valuable. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to create a column. And what it's going to do is whenever span A is above span B, we're going to say that that is a buy sign. We're going to test if that's true. We are also going to go and test multiple other different things, like buying whenever the cloud is a certain width and selling whenever it would converge. We're going to look at whenever the conversion line is over the baseline, and is that truly a good buying opportunity? We're also going to look at whenever the price is over the conversion line, and we're going to test all of these to see if historically the Ichimoku, all of these different analysis tools actually work in helping us go and make those calculations. So I am going to create another function. It's going to create those. Just give me 1 second. I'm sort of having a minor technical difficulty. I'll be back like in 20 seconds. All right, I'm back. Okay, so let's continue. And thank you for following Bag Goody. Thank you. All right, so what are we going to do now? Well, I'm going to go and create a function for all this stuff to add to my data frame. And these are all going to be calculating buying and selling opportunities, and we're going to back test them to see if they actually work. So I'm just going to call this calculate buy and sell. And data frame, there we are. And let's create it. Okay, so one of the things I said I wanted to test was to assign a 1 or a -1 if span A is I'm going to assign a 1 if span A is over span B, and I'm going to assign a -1 if span A is below span B. And we're going to test to see if that actually is historically over a 10-year period a good buy sign. So if you were here early, I sort of gave you a clue to what's going to work and what isn't. And so to test this, I just go NP and very simple where, just when df, and we're going to also chart open versus span A and span B. So I'm going to say if the opening price is greater than or equal to data frame and span A, like that. And you can do multiple different conditions inside of this. And span the price, opening price, again, oops, I want to put parentheses around this. So there we go. All right, there we are. Okay, if the opening price, some of these theories are going to be completely wrong, and other theories are going to be successful, just like every scientific experiment. So we're going to say span B. Okay, so in the situation in which our span A is over the opening price and span B are over the opening price, in that situation, let's go down to the next line so you can see all this stuff. Let's go, oops, let me see here. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to assign a 1, and otherwise I am going to assign a 0. Is that what I want to do, or do I want to do a -1? Let's go and find that. All right, I think that's right. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so we're going to do a 1 or a -1 in the situation in which those two are true. What else would we like to do? Well, I said that I also want to be able to chart if A is over B. So I'm going to say data frame again, and A over B seems to be a good name. And in this situation, we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to say in the situation in which we have our data frame data, span A line, make sure I put span A inside of there, if it is greater than or equal to data frame and span B, well, if it is, I am going to say 1, otherwise I'm going to say -1. Okay, what else are we going to test? I'd also like to test if the conversion line is over the base, is that going to be a successful trading strategy? I'm going to call this conversion over base. And again, we're going to do roughly the same thing. We're just going to say NP. NP, by the way, stands for NumPy. It's another library. And all it's doing is saying span A over span B. If it is, put a 1 in the column. Otherwise, put a -1 in the column. So that's pretty simple to understand, I think. So I got to get my conversion line. And I want to find out if the value in the conversion column is greater than or equal to the what data is in my baseline column. Again, we're going to keep this very simple. Everything's either going to be a 1 or a -1. Okay, what else would we like to test? Well, I'd also like to test if the price is over the conversion line, is that historically a successful way to trade with the Ichimoku? To do that, and you can do this with anything. Any technical indicators you can ever imagine. This is how it is done. And then we'll also be able to plot the growth of the different investments, and we'll be able to plot like the investment in the S&P versus what return you would get over a certain period of time using this any technical indicator, but we're going to focus on the Ichimoku. All right, it works with any of them. This is exactly how you do it, no matter what the indicator is. So you have to have a theory about exactly what you're looking for, of course, but that's easy to find anywhere. So in this situation, we will get our opening price and we will test it to see if it's greater than or equal to data frame and conversion. And in the situation in which it is, we're going to have 1, otherwise a -1, which is going to be a, not working. Another thing that I would like to do is, remember I had those NaN values in the data frame, and let me show you. Let's bring it up here. See, NaN values right here and NaN values here. I want to get rid of those. So to be able to properly analyze and not get all kinds of garbage data, I'd like to get rid of them. So how you do that is you just say drop NA, and if you want to drop them based off of if those values are in specific columns, well, they only show up in my span A column and my span B column and in my lagging columns. So I'm going to say if I have NA in any of those columns, I want to drop them. And another thing you do is you say in place, and if you say in place true, that is going to permanently delete them from our data frame because we do not want them to be in there. Now what we can do is and this is an additional way of testing. Let's say you would like to also test if all of these are true. So if we have our price over top of the cloud of course is represented with span A and span B, we want to give a value of 1. If span A is over span B, we want to add another value of 1. And we're going to continue to increase these. This is another way to test a technical analysis tool, is to weight every single one of these and say if all 4 of these are true, is this a buying opportunity? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to store that again in our data frame, and I'm just going to call this position. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these pieces of data, and I'm going to say over cloud. I wish that came up. All right, doesn't. And data frame and A over B. So A over B and plus data frame and conversion over base. And let's do another one here. Well, this is, what is it? Price over conversion. I might as well just take this and copy it. So I'm going to copy that and throw that right there. And that is going to add up all of those and give us another weighting. After it does all of that, I'm going to return my data frame with all of this new ridiculously awesome data inside of it. I can then go GSPC, which is the ticker for the S&P 500, and I can go calculate, buy and sell, and pass in GSPC data frame and GSPC data frame, and we can make all those calculations. All right, so you can see all of that now. And this is like next level. If you seriously are here and you've been here for this whole entire stream, you know, yeah. Oh, thank you, Patrick Code. And you understand what I'm talking about. This is high level investing. Like very few people do this. But we're going to see if it's worth it. We're actually going to find out here very soon. Another thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to go and calculate the data, the daily return for the S&P 500 in this situation, and we will then use it to chart whether you know, the growth of the investments. So I'm going to say GSPC data frame is equal to, and I created this in a previous video. It's a function that is in the file that I will provide on GitHub for free. GSPC and data frame. There it is. And you also pass in the ticker symbol, GSPC, like that. I have to get a drink. I'm going to lose my voice. All right. And now you're going to see that we added a daily return value somewhere. It's over here probably. Yeah. So you can see here, right here, we have our grouping, which is going to tell us how spread apart the cloud is. We have over the cloud, A over B, conversion over base, price over conversion, position. That is adding up all of those different values. And then also we have our daily return for the S&P 500 every single day for a 10-year period. Insane amounts of data. Okay, so now what do we want to do? Well, understand what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply chart and backtest the Ichimoku just for buying. I am not going to test it for shorting. That means it's going to underperform in my situation. It's still going to make money, but I'll cut to the chase. Now, I'm not going to ruin it. Just understand that I'm not going to be shorting the market. I am going to just simply buy whenever the Ichimoku says to buy. That is what I'm focusing on. So I'm going to say GSPC data frame, and I'm going to make an initial investment. So I'm going to say initial investment column, initial or investment value. That works. Okay, and I am going to give it a value of 0. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to start off and say on day 1 of using the Ichimoku, we're going to buy 1 share of the S&P 500, but we may not do anything with it afterwards. Well, we're going to eventually buy over a 10-year period. Okay, so I will say what the previous investment value is going to be equal to whatever the opening price for the S&P 500. We might buy it that day and sell it that day. We're going to find out depending upon what the Ichimoku tells us to do. So GSPC and DF, if you want to get the initial value that is stored in our opening price, you just say like this, and then you say that you want the opening price. Okay, so that is going to give us our opening price, our initial investment. Now what I want to do is I want to cycle through all of the different rows. Now the reason why I created this is the tool I'm going to use to cycle through all of the data is not going to allow us to look at the previous day's close. So of course we're going to need to, in our calculations to find out our return on investment, we're going to need to know what yesterday's investment value was and then add in the return value for today if we bought, of course. So previous investment value is going to store the previous day's investment value. So how we can cycle through every single piece of data is we're going to say for index row in GSPC data frame. And you just say that you want to iterate through them, and one way to do that is iterate rows like that, and that is going to allow us to cycle through all those pieces of data. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to say if the daily return is null, I want to keep the previous day's investment. So I'm going to just say if pandas dot is null like this, row and daily return, then I will just simply get that there, go like this, and I'm going to say that my investment value is going to be whatever it was yesterday. So that just protects if we have a null value inside of the daily return that we don't try to invest with a null value, because clearly that would create an error. So we need to get the previous day's investment value and store that inside of there. Otherwise, we're going to say else, and what I want to do is if I'm investing in the stock that day, I want to get whatever the return is and multiply it times my previous day's investment value and add that back to our said investment value. So I'm going to say row and investment value like this is going to be equal to, and I'm going to get my previous value, investment value that is, times my daily return, and so that's going to be row and daily return that we just calculated a couple minutes ago, and then I'm going to add that back to my previous investment value. Okay, so that's how, if we decide to buy the S&P for the day, then we're going to do that. All right, because remember, now if we are trading on a daily basis, this is also going to hurt the Ichimoku's data. I'm just going to tell you, the Ichimoku outperforms the S&P. Even though I said at the very beginning that the Ichimoku does not do particularly well when you have a well-diversified portfolio, well, we're dealing with the S&P 500. Pretty well diversified. It's still going to do well. But and on top of that, we are only going to be using daily data. We're not using even hourly data. And the Ichimoku is still going to perform well. The more data you give the Ichimoku, the more accurate it is going to get. So I'm handicapping it in almost every way possible. And on top of that, whenever the Ichimoku says to sell, I am not shorting the market and making money as the market goes up and down. I'm only going to make money when the market is going up. Okay, so I'm handicapping the Ichimoku, and we're still going to do pretty good. All right, So after we do that, if else, and I have to get out of that guy. So, oh, I forgot one other thing here. Let's go and cycle through this guy. So if it is equal to the daily return is null, in that situation, we're not going to do anything. And otherwise, I want to come in here and I want to perform this analysis. So we're never even going to do this stuff. So let's tab here and tab here. And then we're going to come down here and go like this. Okay, so we're going to say, let me see something. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot one thing. Bear with me. Apologize for this. Okay, so what we're going to do is this is going to go back here. And this is actually going to be where I test all of my different theories. All right, so this is still going to work, but we have to get rid of that. Okay, so let's come back up inside of here. And in this situation, this is where we're going to test our theories. So we're going to say if row, and this can be any of the theories, but I'm going to use group. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test if our cloud is a certain width apart. In that situation, I'm going to consider that to be a buy sign. So I'm going to say group is greater than 2. Okay? And then we can test to see it otherwise. So we're not even going to test any of this stuff otherwise. So let's throw this here, and throw that there. If it doesn't make sense, I apologize for that. Just tell me and I will recover it. All right. So else, this else is going to be applied to this guy right here. Else, in that situation, I am not going to invest in the S&P that day. So I'll say row and investment value and is going to be equal to, is going to be equal to whatever the previous day's value is. Okay, so previous investment value. Otherwise, what I want to do is jump out of this else statement, and I'm just going to say that I want to store the investment value in my original data frame, because this is working with just a copy of the data frame. If I want to store it back into the original, I have to actually tell it to do that. So I'm going to say gspc and data frame dot location, and I'm going to go index is going to be whatever the date is, and specifically in the column called investment value, I am going to store whatever is in the row investment value. Okay? And that's going to store all that information into my previous investment data frame. All right. Then I need to update my previous investment value with the previous value that we calculated whenever we either held our value, held our money and didn't buy the S&P that day, or decided to not buy it that day. All right, hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's run it. I don't think I had an error. Nope, everything looks good. Now we can go gspc and data frame like that. And you can see here, if we come down inside of it, here is 4628, and what do we have over here? So, remember I said the Ichimoku with a diversified asset is not going to perform very well. However, and on top of that, I handicapped it by only giving it daily data. This is how much the S&P 500 made, and with the Ichimoku, it got 4870. So that's how much more money it made with the ultimate diversified asset being the S&P 500. Well, it's not the ultimate, but it's a very diversified asset. It still outperformed it. So the real question is how well does the Ichimoku perform with non-diversified assets? And we will find out. And let's go and plot the difference in price here, however. So I'm just going to do a simple plot. I'm going to say PX line, GSPC, and I'm going to say that X is going to be equal to GSPC, data frame, and that's going to be index, like that. And then I'm going to also say that I want to plot the price of the S&P plus the value for our Ichimoku data. So I can make two plots at the same time by just saying that Y has two different values. So I'm going to do the open. Whoops. Let's do open like that. And also our investment value. So let's go and throw that. Whoops. Throw that right there. Am I going to want to do anything else? Yeah, I'm probably going to want to throw some labels inside of here. So let's go like this. And I'm going to say the labels is going to be equal to, and X, like I said before, is going to be equal to the date. So there's date, and also Y is going to simply be our price. So let's go and say value of dollar. And what else would I like to do here? Let's go like this. And let's go and add a title to it also. So we'll say title is equal to Ichimoku versus the S&P. I don't know, something like that. And we can plot that out. GSPC DF, whoops, data frame, whoops. There we are. And you can see here how the Ichimoku, which is red, you could see that it pretty consistently outperforms the S&P, except down here when there's a big dip, and there that is. All right, so if we come back up inside of here, I just want to show you that you would also be able to come in and say row and replace that with all of these other different tests we did. So over cloud. So in this situation, we could say, let's just comment here. You could say comment if like that, and row like that, and over cloud. So we can say boom, over cloud. If over cloud is greater than 0, well, in that situation, we could then do it. All right, so that's how easy it is to test all of these other options. If position, so that goes and brings into effect all of these. Make sure you put the extra comma here, or the extra quote here whenever you do that. We could also say if position. So if we wanted to test to see if 2 or more of those conditions were true in that situation we wanted to invest, boom. This is the only line you need to change to test all of these other different theories. Okay? So just so you know that that is the line that we will be using. All right. So we have all of that, and you can see there is this. So what I'd like to do now is go and test the Ichimoku in the situation in which we have securities. I need to take one break, though, because I'm running out of water and I need to drink. Otherwise, I'll lose my voice. All right, I'm back. Thank you for everybody that's hung around. There's very few human beings that can even understand what I'm talking about right now. So congratulations. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to test the Ichimoku and other different securities to see how much better the Ichimoku performs with individual non-diversified assets like the S&P 500. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to say, I'm going to call this test Ichimoku, and this is going to be a thing that combines everything. And we'll also be able to compare with this function. We're going to be able to compare over different time periods, which makes it even more valuable. So I'm going to pass in the period, and I'm also going to pass in an interval. So, and you remember probably what that means. Okay. So I'm just going to be able to this is going to be a really short function that's going to be excruciatingly powerful. You're going to be able to just simply come in here and, what do we call it? Add Ichimoku to the data frame. You're going to be able to take the ticker, and you're going to be able to take our period and our interval. So we have all of that, and it's going to go and get all our Ichimoku data for us. Let's say we also would like to plot the Ichimoku. There it is. And what we just simply do is pass the data frame in, and it automatically is going to plot. So this is going to be a one function to rule them all type of awesome thing. Then what we need to do is have it calculate our buy and sell strategies that we created, and you can create more. This what I covered in this video can literally be used to back test any technical analysis tool, any of them. This will work for every single thing you throw at it. And you can even combine different technical analysis tools, which is what is often done. So you could go and combine the Ichimoku with, I don't know why you would use Bollinger Bands, but you could combine it with multiple different things. Because Ichimoku is way more complicated and way more accurate than Bollinger Bands. It's not even a comparison. Okay, so it's like a high-speed motorcycle versus a tricycle. Okay, so let's go and we'll add our daily returns. And there that is. And for anybody just joining, the whole entire, in the chat, I link to where you're going to be able to download all this stuff for free on GitHub. So we need our data frame and our ticker. That's going to add our daily returns. And again, we're going to start off with a investment value, investment value, which is going to be equal to 0. And I think I can just go and copy every single thing. That is going to save me a ton of time and save you a ton of time from not having to watch this. So what do I need to do? I'm going to have my investment value. I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this, throw it down in the function, and then make a couple little changes here or there. Then this function is going to be able to go and make all of these calculations for us. So, boom. All right. Now, of course, this needs to be changed to just simply data frame. So let's get rid of that. And then I just have to tab everything properly. So we're going to have our initial investment is going to be 0. We're going to have our previous investment, and we just need to change this to data frame, and that's the opening price. And I'm going to tab all these in, and then we don't need to type, or I don't need to type, and you don't need to watch me type. We can just tab all these in and change a couple little variable names, and then the whole entire function will allow us to analyze the Ichimoku in this situation. Okay, so this needs to be just changed to data frame like that. Get rid of that underscore. This is the same. This is the same. That's the same. All of these things are the same. And data frame. Get rid of that. And there it is. Previous investment value. And then after it makes all of those calculations, it is going to say return data frame like that. And I think that'll work. Did I miss anything? I might have left something in there. We'll find out here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I can now just simply go, okay, you want to analyze the S&P. We can just go like this is equal to, and I can just say test Ichimoku like that, and pass in the ticker for GSPC, the S&P 500. And let's just do the same thing. We can just go 10-year, and we'll say 1 day, like that. And then we could just say S and P, boom. If I didn't make any errors, it's making all those calculations. All right, and so as you can see here, here is the S&P 500, and here is the Ichimoku, and down here, you're going to be able to see the performance. 4628 was the S&P, and 4870 is the performance we added with the Ichimoku as a trading strategy. If we come up inside of here, however, and let's use an individual security that isn't as well diversified, such as AMD. Let's run it. I know it says S&P, but we're using AMD in this situation. And if we come down inside of here, you're going to see that the Ichimoku is going to perform 157 for the AMD. However, our investment return with AMD ends up being 209. So we were able to dramatically outperform using the Ichimoku versus just investing in AMD and holding it for 10 years. And you're going to see that whenever we work with any type of individual security, for the most part, you're going to get similar results. So we'll come down here. That was Newmont Mining. You would have made, you would have 55.66. Of course, we started off as $47. With the Ichimoku, we started off exactly the same place. And in this situation, the Ichimoku actually lost money. So as you can see, it's not always, not a lot, but it lost a couple pennies. And you're going to see with more volatile trades, and also understand, I'm using the Ichimoku and I'm not shorting the market when whenever the Ichimoku tells me to. Just purely buying the upside, not the downside. So that is also going to dramatically affect your results. Let's just throw some more securities inside of here just to test a couple more securities. With Microsoft, would we have done better or would we have done worse? $334 just simply buying and holding Microsoft versus $363. In this situation, you can see the Ichimoku, again, just buying the upside is going to make us more money. And I'm not really going to get into shorting, but with shorting, it would perform even better yet. Okay, so hopefully that is a good rundown of everything you can do with Ichimoku and how you can back test literally any type of investment. Hopefully you guys found this useful. And like always, please leave your questions and comments down below. Otherwise, till next time.